I was listening to the show, listening to your last show. I haven't reached the end of it yet, so I don't know what you said at the end, but I'll get there, so don't spoil it for me. I'm just listening to... I've got to the last song, which is the Radiohead song from the Moon is a Pool, or pool. What is it called? That
Moon-shaped pool.
Moon-shaped pool, yeah. Which I think is the one I haven't got. I've got most of the Radiohead stuff, and it's I need to plug that gap. But so I'm just listening to that, and I thought that sounded, aside from the vocals, that's reminded me of like something that Neil Young or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young would do, you know, back in the 70s with the acoustic guitar. And then Tom York comes over the top, and he's not like that at all, you know. He's like something completely different. But it's the first time I've listened to that, actually, I think, or the first time I've listened to it since I was checking them out, like probably 10 years ago, you know. So nice to hear that. But that was your Desert Island Discs sort of episode.
Yeah, well, a little bit of that going on, yeah. And it was that, you know, that album, Moon-Shaped Pool, I think you'll enjoy it. It's a standout Radiohead record too. To me, it almost sounds more like a John Greenwood soundtrack than it sounds like a Radiohead record. Which I don't know if you've listened to any of his film work, his film scoring.
I have not, no.
No, it's the first time it caught my interest was that one with Joaquin Phoenix. I forget the name of the movie, but it's one where he I don't know exactly I forget exactly what his character is about, and if I remember it might spoil a bit of the movie anyway, but it's this guy he's like a broken human being who has dedicated his life to basically being kind of like I don't want to say a hitman, because he doesn't kill people that like for hire, in the sense that like someone calls up and goes, I need my wife dead kind of thing. Like in the movie he's going after like child predators, and he's looking for missing children.
All right.
Yeah, and he doesn't like, and he shows up with a hammer. He doesn't show up with a gun or a knife. He kills people with a hammer.
He likes to get messy.
Yeah, and there's this, and I was watching the movie, and right near the beginning, there's this like guitar part. It's acoustic guitar. You can tell someone's intentionally untuning the guitar pegs while he's playing.
Oh my God!
You know,
right.
And I was like, what sick bastard would do this? I wish I'd thought of that. You know, and then I realized it was Johnny Greenwood. And I was like, oh, of course it'd be someone like him.
Yeah.
And then I started listening to more of his stuff. And then when I heard the Moon-Shaped Pool, I was like, yes, that makes so much sense now.
Right. I maybe have heard something of his somewhere along the way and not realised who it was, but I haven't consciously done so. Hold on, I'm going to adjust this. This mic is descending floorward as we speak. I'm not having a good technical day, Chris. It's things have gone pear-shaped.
That's all right.
There we are. I think that'll hold it. I've got one of these really stupid, cheap microphone stands, you know, where if you tighten it up too much, you're actually wearing out the mechanism. So the more you tighten it, the more worn it gets. So the more you have to tighten it. So God, I'm such a cheapskate. I should get something decent that works. But
yeah, I've a lot of that around here. I try and remember that nice microphone stand I had? That's the one that fell and it broke and let my microphone hit the ground. So
right.
I'm back to cheap stuff. Cheap stuff doesn't let me down.
What is that stand you're using there for your?
It's probably a newer, you know, the cheap Amazon company.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's what this one is. I can't remember. Actually, this one might even be a more obscure name, if I recall. It was a more obscure name, but it had better hardware. So I was like, that looks like it'd be worth a chance. And I used it for a while, but the base broke, cracked on me. And then when I bought the nicer one, the arm broke, and now I'm using the base from the nice stand.
Oh, I see. Right. So is that attached to the desktop then?
Yeah, on my desk here, I have like a clamp.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I've seen those.
It's got a device. Yeah, it's nice.
So if you, I'm sorry to interrogate you about your mic stand, but if you like tap the desk in front of you, does that carry through to the mic?
Let's see here. Let me look at my.
Because that was what worried me about the desk clamp thing.
Let me blow up my thing here. I'm not seeing any spikes
really,
on
no,
the wave.
Not really. Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, I'll maybe give one of those a shout because I keep looking at them every so often and I go, I don't know, because when you don't, you know what it's like when you don't have a lot of money, You're like thinking this could be a complete and utter waste of time and money, and you just don't want that. It's very stressful.
That's true.
So I try to avoid wasting money these days. When I had money, I was happy wasting it, but when I haven't got it, I don't want to waste it.
Well, exactly, and this thing here was, I think it was less than $20 Canadian. I'm pretty sure I paid for this.
It looks quite sturdy though. I mean, what I can see of it, it looks quite good.
Well, that's why it's back here, right? Because like the other one gave me nothing but headaches, and there's like a mechanism you tighten to try and make it sturdier. The other one I had, and it's got this wire that goes through a cable, and the cable ended up snapping because it was so tight.
Right.
It was under too much tension, and I realized like the SM7B is not the lightest microphone.
No.
It's but it's the standard for this kind of stand, right? Like it should be able to handle that at least.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm out of touch. Actually, and I sent the broken one back to Amazon, and they gave me a new one, and it's over on the other side of the room where my iPod setup is, and I just have a Shure SM58 on the end of that one now.
Right.
So it can handle that with no problem, and I find it's brilliant for doing my my looping because I don't have to have a microphone stand on the ground; it's on the desk, so it just keeps my my feet clear of stuff. But I don't know how that would translate to a live setup because over there I have one of those stand-up desks for work, so I got it telling myself I'll stand up while I'm at working from home, and I used it for like 2 weeks, then I got a gout attack and I couldn't stand up for like a month or two, and then I never stood back up again on my desk. I've been sitting here ever since.
I know.
Now it's my faux, that's why I pretend I'm performing live over there for my looping station.
So if you go out live, you'll have or when you go out live, I won't say if, you're going out live. You're going to go and do this.
Yeah, I'm going to.
You strike me as the kind of guy that decides he's going to do something and then does it. As opposed to other people I know who are always talking about things and never do anything. It's the two extremes. So when you use the iPad, how will you do that live? Will you have that on a desk, or will you have that on a stand, or what will you do?
I'm still wrapping my head around it. I was on Temu yesterday looking at microphone stand mounts for my iPad. Mm-hmm. Like I saw a nice one for like $7 Canadian. So I was like, that might do as long as it doesn't break.
So that would attach to the mic stand.
Yeah. I'd put it on a mic stand and you'd have that there. But the problem is I also need a stand for my laptop, and I need over here I have those 2-tier keyboard stands over here. I got 2 of them. So, and on the one on the left here, I got 2 pieces of plywood that I've painted, like paint poured on them and everything to make them look nice. So that would probably work for the rest of my setup. I might even be able to put the iPad on there. So I could probably do the 2-tier stand on everything, and then have a microphone stand next to it. Mm-hmm. And for any extra space I need, the microphone stand could probably hold the iPad, because I like to have my laptop, which I think is a 17-inch. It's not the smallest laptop. I have the two channel interfaces. And then I have a little 8-channel mixer, all Temu stuff, right? All cheap stuff, except for the 1 2-channel mixer is an old Presonus audio box that I bought. I bought that one about 10 years ago with the intention on recording music in my van between service calls when I had time. And
right.
And
gosh,
I used it a few times, but then I realized my LG laptop has this thing on it called water wall, which is like a protection that won't let you take anything off the laptop that isn't like strictly authorized by the IT department. And after a few requests of getting WAV files off this thing, they just stopped. They're like, no, you can't keep taking audio files off your laptop. And I'm like, but it's not work. It's music. And they're like, why are you making music at work? And I'm like, well, why not? They're like, that's not what we're paying you to do. Like, stop making music at work. So,
the bastards! How dare they not understand the life of an artist?
Exactly, right? So so that audio box sat in a box for years and years and years, and now I have an LG laptop that's not from the company. Like I bought it I get employee discount, so I bought a nice LG laptop for my 1 year, and they gave me like a $500 coupon, so I used it on a laptop. And for whatever reason, it's not compatible. It's USB 1 plugged into a USB 3, and it creates these clicks and pops I get occasionally that are completely unacceptable. So that thing, I almost sold it because it was pretty much brand new, and it had been sitting around. And then when I got the iPad, I was trying to figure out how I can record with that thing properly, and I saw some guy saying like, Hey, don't buy the Apple interfaces. You can just use an old USB interface as long as you have a dongle and you have a powered USB like splitter.
Yeah.
I bought one of these off Temu for like $3, and with a USB cable that you can plug into like a regular like phone charger, and it's got a little power adapter on it. So this powers the hub, and then I can plug the hub into the iPad through the dongle, and then I can run the sound card through that.
Yeah.
And it works flawlessly with the iPad.
Brilliant.
Like
that's good. That's one of the great things about the iPad is that when it works, it does just work, like the advert used to say. You know, when it works, it just works. But when it doesn't work, you're fucked. You're fucked. And they can. The worst of it is they can change it at any point. You'll have an interface that works absolutely brilliant. Everything's going along swimmingly. You update your iPad, and it doesn't work anymore. And you're like, fuck. Why did I upgrade the fucking?
Well, that's why I've been. I don't know if Apple hates people like me or not, but there's been 2 updates already since I bought the iPad. It's the oldest one you could buy. It was the 9th gen iPad. The last one that got a lightning port on it, so it's no USB-C, and it's got a headphone jack, right?
Ooh,
so that's
nice. Oh.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's perfect, right? So so that's the one I'm hanging on to, and so far it's tried to make me update twice. I just keep saying no, and it keeps telling me I've updated user things I have to accept, and I just keep saying no. Like, no, I don't accept that, and it just keeps working. So I'm hoping it'll stay in its state until the battery dies on me.
The best way to do it is I think is what you're doing is to keep the environment as stable as you can, and don't update any of the software either, like any of your apps or anything like that, unless you can afford to sort of have it fuck up. When I was running everything I was doing on the iPad, I used to always update it because my iPad was quite new at that point, so I knew it would probably be okay. But there was always that kind of like trepidation of, you know, after the update, trying it again, and it still works, thank God. Because I had all my eggs were in the iPad basket. I was going to say regarding your live thing, I saw Michael Rother play with Dieter Mobius at a tiny little club in Edinburgh, and he was running everything. They were both running everything off 2 laptops, and what they did was they just put a desk at the front of the stage, so just a table from the venue at the front of the stage, and they had everything on just a table, and Dieter Mobius was just sitting there on a chair from the bar, and Michael Rother stood up and played the guitar. So they just had it all on a desk. So I actually think that's a pretty good way to go, because it gives you, you know, a desktop's quite a flexible thing. You can put lots of different things on it, and, you know, so you might not need to do any of the sort of fancy stuff. Just get a table, get a fold-up table or something.
Well, I do have a folding table as well. And the reason why I've been hesitant is because I would have to sit, and I'm not like opposed to sitting, but I find because I have like my large pod, and then I have the MIDI controller. If I was sitting, I'd be probably doing a lot of like moving back and forth like this.
Oh, right.
And if I didn't have an office chair with me, I think I'd find it really awkward and kind of annoying. And I've never performed on stage in a chair before, unless I was playing my lap steel guitar. If I didn't have something to put it on, because I never had a stand for my lap steel, so I literally had it on my lap. So that would be the time I would sit. But I don't know. It's probably just a cliche thing. I've always found it annoying that Robert Fripp sits all the way through King Crimson concerts.
Yeah, he always did, didn't he? I think in the very, very beginning he did stand up, but he found he couldn't play as well, so he sat down. And they said, "Oh, you can't do that." And plus, he's the leader of the band, and he's sitting at the back. You know. I think that's great. He even did that when he went out with G3, didn't he? He was.
Oh yeah.
He sat next to his rack.
Yeah.
You know, he has this rack that's taller than him, and he's fiddling with that. I love the way he starts his concerts. I think he does it with King Crimson, where he just walks on and starts noodling. No announcement. The lights are still up.
The last few times I saw him, the noodling was pre-recorded. It was something from his the thing he did with David Bowie called "No Pussyfooting" or something like that.
Oh yeah.
No, not David Bowie. Did I say David Bowie? I meant
Brian Eno.
Brian Eno.
Yeah.
Yeah, did I say okay? But either way, actually, Bowie may have been in the room when they recorded that, because I know they were working together at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way I took inspiration from that kind of stuff, because even my first high school band, like right at our first or second gig we did, I had a CD where I recorded as like a soundscape that was like 20 minutes long that would be playing through the PA while we were setting up, because you'd be playing between other bands and they'd give you like 5 to 10 minutes to set up before you played your set, and that would be what was playing. And when I listen back to the old recording, sometimes it's the most interesting part of the whole show was our setup sound.
Well, it can be interesting just to record that in a live room with an audience, just sort of talking amongst themselves and all that kind of stuff. That could be. I think if I was doing live shows and recording them, I would be recording the audience unknown to them, because you get this wonderful ambience of people. I love that. It's the one thing I've never done is I've never done a live album. I've never done that. But so maybe that's why I miss it.
Yeah, I should send you the one. I have my high school band recorded a live album one time,
right?
In Toronto at a venue that's no longer there anymore, but it was a beautiful venue in Toronto, called the place was called the Big Bop, and it had three concert venues inside of it. It was an old, like, I don't know what the building originally was built for. Maybe it was always like a theater of some sort, but it was it had like your 3 tiers, and like so you had one the street level one, which was for bands like my high school band and more indie bands, and then you had the larger one that would be hosted for more, I wouldn't say famous bands, but like I saw Opeth play there before they were famous,
right.
That kind of stuff. And then the Big Bop itself was where they had it was like a dance club where they had this like constant bass thumping. So you go to concerts there and you'd be hearing the band play, and then when the band was between songs, all you'd hear is like whatever else some other band was doing.
Right.
It was very strange. It was very noisy in there. But that was for us in high school. That was like to us, it felt like we had hit a pinnacle. We thought that was the beginning of like the rest of our career, and then everybody went to college, and the band never really did much. We played one more gig after that, I think, and that was the end of the band.
Oh,
so I remember being very depressed because I was on cloud 9 that night. I was on mushrooms that night on stage. That was the first time I ever performed on psychedelics. And that's like kind of weirdo I am. Like you think like this is the biggest moment of my life. I'm gonna eat mushrooms for it. I remember thinking afterwards I couldn't believe I did that. But and the set opened up with after the sound. The set opens up with me playing guitar with a woman's vibrator. I bought like a little pocket massager.
I mean, why not? Mushrooms and vibrator, it just all goes together, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And it was neat. My grandfather came to watch us play that show too, which I thought was neat because he was in his 70s. And I remember he showed up, and like other than like the odd parent that was there who was like in their 30s or 40s, my grandfather was by far the oldest person in that venue. Maybe the oldest person ever entered the doors. That they were the way they were treating him. And I remember he pulled up right at the front of the venue in his Buick, and they're like, "Oh, you can't park there, sir." And he's like, "Well, I'm here to see a band play." They're like, "Oh, okay, sure, you can park there then." And even though it wasn't a parking spot, one of the bouncers stood there and made sure no one messed with my grandfather's car.
All right.
And and they came in and they got him a table and a seat and everything because it was a standing venue, And my grandfather goes, "Where do I smoke?" And they're like, "You can't smoke in here." And then some guy walks over and goes, "You can let him smoke. What are you talking about?" So he's sitting there smoking in a non-smoking venue, parked in a non-parking spot, And after the show, I was like, "So what's that?"
No, I was going to say, was your grandfather I take it he's not with us anymore?
No, he passed away not that long after that of a horrible brain disorder.
Oh, that's a shame.
Mad cow disease.
Oh, no.
He had the human mad cow disease.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's terrible.
Yeah. That was terrible.
Was he a sort of charismatic guy? Was he?
Yeah, very magnetic.
Ah, right.
Yeah, he was.
That explains why they were doing that then, doesn't it, really? It's like you get people like that, the world bends around them.
Yeah, well, they do, And he was one of those guys that, like he'd be like from my recollection, because he's my grandfather, so I imagine I hold him up in maybe higher regards than most people did. But, when he was in a room full of people, it always seemed like everybody wanted to be his friend. It was, and I think part of it was his size too. Like he was only like 5'1". Like he was a very little guy.
Right.
Yeah, and so he made up for that, I think, with like a larger than life personality, but it wasn't like in a loud way. Like I have a larger than life personality in some regards, and that's how I defend with social awkwardness sometimes. But it's mine's more like, like Bill Hicks, like, and,
Yeah.